And so it is my pleasure to welcome Michael Pate to come and share his observations and experiences as his travels all over the world of observations of humanity. And this comes from his career with the State Department and his love of travel as well. And we look forward, Michael, to your presentation. And with that, we will let you get started.
Welcome. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm quite honored to be asked to do this presentation. And hopefully you've got a nice cup of coffee or a drink of your choice. And if you have a Bloody Mary in front of you, you get 2 extra points. So I'm going to start this presentation here. And here we go. Observing humanity during travel. I'm a family nurse practitioner, clinical specialist with the U.S. Department of State. I did my undergraduate at East Tennessee State University many years ago, and my graduate degree, a master's degree in nursing at Emory University. And I served with the department of Lima, Peru from 85 to 88, Mexico City, 88 to 91, Hong Kong, 91 to 95, Moscow, 95 to 98, Tokyo, 98 to 2001. Washington, D.C., I was the chief of medical informatics from 2001 to 2004. Frankfurt, Germany, 2004 to 2006. Washington, D.C., I was the chief of medical clearances for those official Americans serving with the Department of State or other federal agencies going overseas. I was in charge of that program. Kuwait City, 2009 to 2011, Baghdad, 2011, 2012, London, 2012 to 2015. Washington, D.C., 2015 to 2018, I was the director of the medical providers, the nurse practitioners, and the clinical, the physician assistants, and then became the managing director of clinical services, coordinating those services in D.C. Mandatory retirement was in 2018 at the age of 65. And for me, retirement is overrated. So I've been doing temporary duty. Was in Cairo, Egypt in 2021 for 2 months. Pretoria, South Africa last year for 3 months. Managua, Nicaragua for a month there. Kyiv, Ukraine this year. I was there for 3 weeks. Pretoria, South Africa again this year for 3 months, and I'm scheduled to return. I just found out this week to go back to Cairo, Egypt in December of this year for at least 3 to 4 weeks. And then I'm penciled in for Kyiv, Ukraine for February and May of next year. So anything could happen. It just depends upon funding and the political situation. So time will tell. It just has to be flexible. So what is the Department of State? I refer to it as the Foreign Service. When you think of it, think of ambassadors overseas, the embassies and the consulates. And that is the group that I took care of, providing primary care services, diagnosis and treatment to American diplomats, ambassadors and their family members, and the American diplomats and their family members. So the Bureau of Medical Services heads up the operation in Washington, D.C., and there are over 200 and some posts overseas that potentially you could serve at. Assignments are either 2-3 years at a time, and if it's Baghdad or those high-risk posts, usually it's a 1-year assignment. So, disclaimer, it's not paid, does not represent U.S. policy, and it's limited to only my travels overseas. So I'll start out with a quote from Mark Twain. Travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness, and many of our people need it sorely on these accounts. Broad, wholesome, charitable views of men and things cannot be acquired by vegetating in one little corner of the earth all one's lifetime. Whoa, sorry. And so I looked up humanity. So just to kind of give a broad definition, compassionate, sympathetic, or generous behavior or disposition. I tend to think of it as the human experience. And how it informed my spirituality is to look at people a bit more with compassion and kindness. So moving on, this is looking at the bay in Malta. We were in Germany. Brad and I were in Germany at the time, and we took a trip to Malta. And it just so happened to be the Commonwealth was meeting there, and Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip, we saw them. But if you look on the lower left-hand corner of
Michael,
the, yes.
you need to share your screen.
Oh, I'm not, oops, I thought I did. Okay. Sorry. Shall I start again?
Why don't you could bring it up, you can just go through the earlier parts.
Yeah, okay, sorry.
It's
Somehow
okay.
you're okay.
I'll look at the thumbnails. You need to bring up the,
Can you see it now?
there we go. Yeah.
Okay, good. The quote from Mark Twain, basically, travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness, and many of our people need it sorely on these accounts. Broad, wholesome, charitable views of men and things cannot be acquired by vegetating in one little corner of the earth all one's lifetime. So this has been part of my experience over my 33 and a half years in the Foreign Service, plus doing extra travel. Again, humanity, looking at compassion, sympathetic, generous behavior or disposition. So that's how I look at the view of this presentation. On this screen, Brad and I, we were visiting Malta. We were living in Germany at the time, and there was a Commonwealth meeting, and we were able to see the Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip. And on the lower left-hand corner, you see a red star. Well, right to the right of the star, you will see a corner of a building. And I just happened to look down, and I see this lady there, and I snapped this photo. And she was enjoying her cup of coffee, looking at the fleet. And I thought, okay, we all share in this getting up in the morning, having our coffee, and being able to enjoy the moment at that point in time. So I felt a real connection, but I just love this photograph, and I have it printed out. Next, moving off to London, you'll probably recognize Harrods. We lived around the corner from Harrods, and I turned 60 while I was in London. And with that, I was able to get my old man card, which gave me the privilege of riding the bus and the tube without having to pay for it. So I said, okay, I'm going to get my, take care of, and take advantage of this. So each morning I would go to the bus stop right in front of Harrods. And on the way, I would stop at one of the convenience stores and pick up a sandwich or, and a cup of coffee because sometimes I got tired of eating at the embassy. So one morning, as I was took the bus, I would have to get off at some point and then walk underneath to get to the other side, so I'd get to the embassy. And then I came across this homeless person, and most of the time you would see them underneath in the tunnels, they'd be asleep. This guy was not asleep. And he looked at me, and I just couldn't help it. So I gave him my coffee and my sandwich and said, enjoy this. And he says, oh, you're my guardian angel. So this went on for about a week. And the weekend came, and we had visitors from the US. So the visitors had left a pair of shoes. So on Monday morning, I thought, okay, I'm going to give this fellow some shoes. So I did. And he says, Mr. This is not who I am. I've really hit some bad luck. Thank you for the shoes. I have an interview. You will not see me tomorrow. So just the ability to connect with this fellow was quite meaningful for me. And the next day he wasn't there. So I don't know what happened to him, but hopefully he got his job and got his life back together. Next, Moscow. This is me at the Moscow train station when much younger version. And while I was there, there was the medical advisor, which was Russian. He worked in the medical unit there, Volodya Sibirsky, and we became friends. And he says, Michael, they just opened up a Pate, scuba diving. Would you like to learn to scuba dive? And I said, yes, that'd be fabulous. So where do we go? He says, we're going to go to the Olympic pool in Moscow. So they used ozone instead of chlorine in the pool, which I thought was interesting. But there was a group of Russians. I was the only American, my friend was English speaking, and I was the only American in the group. But there were about 10 guys there. So we learned to scuba dive in the Olympic pool. And at the end of it, you would change and get ready to go home, and he would take me back to the embassy compound. But we couldn't leave until you sat down and had a little bit of vodka, cheese, or salami and chat. So I didn't speak any Russian whatsoever. So my friend would translate for me. And the fellows were just very nice. And that camaraderie that you just don't see with American men, to sit down and have a little bit of vodka at the end of a session, a training that I just thought was quite unique. So we went on to Hurghada, Egypt, and Sharm el Sheikh, and did diving in the Red Sea later that year. So I've got some real good memories of that experience. But again, the humanity, the camaraderie that this group of men shared, that was foreign to me. Next is Cairo, Egypt, and the market in Cairo. So we stayed at the hotel, and to get there, we would take an Uber. And oftentimes in the Uber, I don't speak Arabic. So the Uber driver didn't speak English. So I had my little smartphone with a translator in it. So I struck up a conversation with the taxi drivers oftentimes. So they would laugh, and we'd have the best time getting to the destination, and it was fun. So at the end of that, often it would be said, "You are my brother, my baby, my beloved one." And I thought that was pretty touching, to be able to bridge that communication gap and share a moment with the taxi driver that was fun. So next is Kyiv, Ukraine. Now I'm in the office there at the American Embassy working, and you'll see the mattress behind me. That was in the office in case there was a security that was so intense we couldn't leave the embassy. You'd sleep at the embassy at the medical unit. That people had mattresses in their offices and human resources all over the place. But that was me there in the office. So at the end of the day, I was totally exhausted. So I went to the hotel and had dinner. And at the end of dinner, I thought, okay, I'm going to charge this meal to my room. So the fellow on the right side with the glasses, the dark hair, I put a 20% tip on the bill. And he came to me and said, "Sir, we will never see this. You please scratch it out and just give us the money." And I said, "Okay, that I can do that." So I did. So the next day when I come down for breakfast, they all knew my name. "Good morning, Michael. How are you?" And I thought, oh my goodness, what have I done? And where they had charged the room, they could look up my name. But it was the same group of people every morning and at night. They were there, they were working, they were always smiling. And they would ask me, what would you want for dinner? So I'd say, bring me a Diet Coke without a lemon or a lime, and then a bread. So because I couldn't drink wine or anything like that, so I was on call. So I had to, have the Diet Coke without me asking. The 3 weeks that I was there, they were bringing me the same thing every day. So they knew me. So the fellow here in the center, a couple of days before I left Kyiv, The night before, there was an air raid at 2 o'clock in the morning. So people were going down to the bunker to take shelter. We were down there for like 3 or 4 hours and then went off to work that day. So at the end of the day, I was just exhausted. And he came to take my order at dinner. And I says, "How did you fare last night?" And he said, "Well, sir, I was at my apartment and there's no bomb shelter. So I had to be in the hallway of my apartment with the blanket over me and just hoping that we wouldn't get struck." He says, "Occasionally we don't have electricity or water, but I am grateful to be here today to serve you." And I thought, oh, it was just really touching. And I thought, here I am. I can leave in a couple of days. He couldn't leave. And he was doing all he could do, but he was very optimistic and said that he was grateful for all the help that the Americans were giving to him or to his country. So I was just impressed with that interaction. Again, humanity there. So the medical unit, the lady on the far left is a nurse. She just recently retired. The next lady over is one of the doctors that she worked part-time there, another nurse. And then the fellow on the far right was the person that managed the front desk, made all the appointments, took care of pulling records, this type thing. He told me that he kept a low profile. And I says, "Why is that?" He said, "Because if I go to the grocery store," he said, "I'm afraid to go at certain hours because the military will be outside waiting for men to come out. They will take them and put them in trucks and take them in and put them into the army." So he said, I can't do that. He said, he's got a good job at the embassy. It's a reliable pay, good security. And he has a master's degree in linguistics. So he's well educated and doing work that, he could be doing something else. But I felt for him because he felt like he had to limit his activities and couldn't get out. After time in Kiev, I went off to Krakow, Poland, met Brad there. And as you would have it, you would go off to Auschwitz after coming from a war zone. So how do you take a photograph? You don't. It's standing in front of the sign there in Auschwitz. So for me, I felt the pain that people were feeling. I could not hear any birds singing at all while we were there. We toured the place for a good time. Brad was able to hear some birds, but just to be there, you felt really bad for the people that suffered. And then we went back to Krakow, Poland. I woke only to see the rest of the world is still asleep. And sometimes I feel that way when I look around and realize people are not understanding or they don't have a view of the rest of the world. Back in Krakow, I just took this. I couldn't help but get tickled. I love a nun with a good sense of humor. She had this smiley face on her bag and it was raining and she was trying to get out of the rain. But I thought that was so sweet, and I just couldn't resist to take the photograph. Next is Pretoria and the shovels. So what is this about? Brad and I went to a museum in Pretoria, South Africa. It was large, and it was like we were the only people in that place. And Brad went ahead of me and came across this little studio. And there was an artist in there, and he was painting, getting ready for an exhibit. So Brad called me in and we went in. I introduced myself and started chatting. He had several canvas of shovels. And I said, "Tell me, what is this about?" He said, "This represents my digging myself out of poverty and out of the life that I was in and helping my family." he said that he was several hours away from Pretoria. He had gotten either a scholarship or something and had just finished art school, and he was getting ready for an exhibit and painting. He had several of these there, and that was his story, digging out from poverty and helping his family dig out of a bad situation. And to me, that was moving, to hear his story. Talking about art, this is at the American Embassy in the medical unit, and this is the front desk people I worked with. And one of my paintings, I donated one of my paintings to the embassy there, to the medical unit. And this group, I worked with them last year for 3 months, and again this year for 3 months, and they were just fabulous. So they were quite helpful, and I would cherish to go back and work with them again. Friends in Pretoria. We had good friends that we had met last year, and we were able to reconnect this year and had gone to the Pretoria Country Club for lunch. And it was good to visit with them, just to reconnect. While in Pretoria, I turned 70, and we at the little guest house I stayed last year for 3 months, again this year at the same guest house, there was a birthday party. So Brad coordinated a birthday party, and they all came in and sang happy birthday to me. So I was always blessed to see their faces in the morning and be greeted and pampered while I was there. So the Middle East. Today I got a message from my friend that is in Beirut. He will be going off to Tel Aviv to work at the consulate there. He said that there was an authorized departure of Americans from the embassy and the consulates, from the embassy in Jerusalem and the consulate in Tel Aviv, and that many people did not leave, which I found surprising. But he leaves tomorrow, going to Tel Aviv. He'll be there for 3 weeks, and then he will be going off to Kyiv, Ukraine, for a couple of months. So the suffering of the people in Israel and Gaza, it's overwhelming. So I would be remiss if I didn't talk about things closer to home. And this is my shower. So why is this significant? Right before I had my total knee replacement almost 6 weeks ago, my neighbor installed the handrails and the chair in the bathrooms. We've got 4 bathrooms, and he went through and installed the handrails. Now, he and his wife moved here probably about a year ago, or a little over a year ago, and they had been super nice to me, and just showing compassion for my condition and helping me out with installing these handrails made quite a difference. So, and St. Boniface, just the compassion and humanity that I see there every Sunday. And the display yesterday with Christopher Nugent's funeral was quite touching. So I appreciate that quite a bit. This is Starbucks coffee cup. And this is the American Sign Language for Starbucks, the hands with the fingers and the thumbs. And it reminds me of Richard Mahaffey, a deaf Episcopal priest. I think he's the first in the U.S. And then Barbara Kerr, she's hearing. But there was a deaf Eucharist held there frequently at St. Boniface. And that's when Jonathan Evans was there. So I participated. I was the usher. And you'll see me in the background there. And on the far left, you'll see oh, good grief. I'm turning to blanking now on their names. But anyway, whoops. We met, and then afterwards, after Eucharist, we go to the parish hall and we have lunch. And I was high entertainment value to them. I took 2 beginner courses, an advanced course in sign language. And then Barbara gave me private lessons. And Dick would say to me, Michael, continue with your lessons. And so I'm sure that he would just giggle and giggle with me trying to sign, and I was afraid to find out what I was signing. And on a lighter note, we had a Halloween party here, and he dressed up, and I was the captain, and we had a ball. It was fun. We had a good time. So let's see. And again, St. Boniface with the upper room, and then the Spanish class, and then the fight against hunger. All again, great displays of humanity and compassion. And then my family, on the far left, my grandson, my son in the middle, and me, my sister and brother, my mother and brother, my sister at the bottom, and Brad's family. So very supportive. And Brad and I, we were in South Africa and had gone to a meal out on the lakefront there. We will be together 25 years next month, and they're married for 10 tomorrow. So again, humanity at its best. No more apologies for bleeding heart when the opposite is no heart at all. Danger of losing our humanity must be met with more humanity. Toni Morrison. So that is pretty much it. So I'm open for questions. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer those. Hopefully it wasn't too fast, and hopefully you didn't miss too much at the beginning.
Michael, if you would stop sharing your screen, there we go.
Okay.
And again, thank you so much for sharing your observations. I wasn't expecting all the photographs. That's wonderful. And when you've been in these various countries, what is it that you take away in general as you're there with people?
That's an excellent question. I really hadn't thought about it that much. I know when you do a holiday somewhere, you really don't get to experience what people are doing on a daily basis. So when you're living there for 2 and 3 years, you really get a sense how people live. And it's pretty much the way we live here. They shop, we go grocery shopping, people go to church, or and they have friends, education, all the things that we do. There's a lot of commonality that we have that's what I tend to think of mostly. So, and that bridges the gap.
Thank you. And now it's open for people with questions or comments. Please use the feature of raising your hand. It's under reactions and the banner at the bottom. And Marian, go ahead. You need to unmute, dear.
Michael, that was an excellent, excellent presentation.
Thank you.
And it was, yeah, it's so wonderful that your life has been given to this kind of humanity all over the world, and I want to commend you for that. But we're sitting with Palestine and Israel at war with each other. And I want to ask, it seems hopeless. How many wars have we been in and skirmishes have we been in just in our lifetime? And Netanyahu doesn't seem to be willing to budge in any way. And Hamas, of course, is a terrorist group, so it's wrong. So to me, that's an example of the opposite of what you're talking about, all right? And I want to ask you, what hope for humanity do you have in that situation? Or is it just really gotten hopeless and there's no solution that's going to be reached?
I think that's an excellent question. I wished I had an excellent answer to provide you. I think there is hope. When you look at world events in the past, somehow we get through it. I don't know how we're going to get through it at this point in time. It does make one depressed and turn off the news. I can't. I get angry, and I have to stop watching it, or I start crying because of the pain people are suffering.
Can I have
So,
a follow-up question?
sure, please.
It seems obvious that the two-state solution is the fair and right solution to it.
Mhm.
But nobody is willing to relinquish their land to make that. Do you see us eventually reaching to a two-state solution?
Again, that's a good question. I think that's always been on the table, and I think that it would be a good solution. However, when you look at the I guess the demon in the details is Hamas and Hezbollah. Those are the people that are really suffering, making the suffering for Israel and the people in the Palestine, in Gaza. So it's complicated, and I wished I had an answer. It's way beyond my pay grade, and I wished I had a better answer to give to you.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much. And Vince and Betsy have their hand raised.
Thanks, Brother John. Betsy here. Michael, thank you so much for sharing your words and your pictures and the insights that they all bring forth. And I just, going back to the very first quote that you shared from Mark Twain, there's something about traveling that once you see the people that you're interacting with, whether it's the homeless person who is in the underground tunnel or an Uber driver in Egypt, you no longer can look at them as a foreigner or you as a foreigner. You suddenly are siblings. And when you have that kind of an understanding of other people, I think it's so hard to go to war. They are you and you are them. And it's heartbreaking that we are where we are, especially when the results of war can be so much more catastrophic than they could have been 100, 200 years ago. But I just feel what you're doing, making bridges across humanity, is so important. And thank you for sharing that with us.
No, thank you for the compliment. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's like one big family, no matter the color or religion, who we love, where we're from, the whole nine yards. So I have to look at it that way, and hopeful that people will come up with solutions to live in peace instead of hate.
Thank you. And Bradley, you have your hand raised.
Hi.
There you go.
I was just, these questions and issues are horribly difficult, and we all appreciate how horrible they are. Just in a very, very small way, as Betsy was just saying, this is a follow-on to Betsy's comments, that when I was at the University of Maryland at College Park, just north of DC, teaching back in the early 2000s, this is immediately following the terrorist attack at 9/11 with in New York and in the Pentagon. And what I did was I brought together a group of chaplains from the University of Maryland from different areas. They were Muslim, Christian, Protestant, and Catholic, and Hindu and Buddhist, and bringing a group of people together and discussing faith and how we can talk together and understand each other better. And I did this with a group of international students that I was teaching there in the Applied English Center in the Intensive English program at the University of Maryland at College Park. And it was met well. And I've done these sorts of things in other places too. When I was at the Islamic Saudi Academy, when I was teaching for the Saudis, in Alexandria, Virginia later. This is the school famously referred to in Newsweek or by Senator Schumer as Terror High, where I was teaching. So I was teaching in the Islamic Saudi Academy, and talking about bridging, I mean, this is a tough, and what we do is what we can do in the sphere of our influence, however small that is. But with the full agreement and support of my immediate supervisor of the department, who was a Palestinian Jordanian man, very sophisticated, very charming, very well educated. He encouraged me and authorized me to be able to take my students to the National Cathedral in Washington, where we gave they talked to a religion class there at the Anglican boys' school and their religion class. And my boys got to talk to those boys from those two schools. They got to tour the cathedral. They got to talk. And it was, I have no illusion that everything's changed, everything fixed anything, but it's just making a little crack or trying to open up a little bit of dialogue. And then this week, I was part of a dialogue here in Sarasota, Florida, with a group that brought together conservatives and liberals in a discussion topic where we only discussed public education. Is it still a public good? Why is it important? And we talked about this one subject and these narrow questions for 3 hours. And now I know people self-select to be there. They're already on the more open just to be present. But nevertheless, there were people with divergent ideas. And, you know, we sat there together having very civil, friendly conversations. And these are people that have good positions. One woman's a lawyer. She's running for a public office here in this county where I live in Florida. There are other people in interesting positions that have served as county commissioner and other things. So, you know, these are people that do have levers, even if I have no lever, and they talk to other people. And I think where we are, this is all we can do, I think. And is it hopeful? Maybe in the moment, maybe where we are. I don't think we're not fixing the whole world, but I don't know what else we could do. But we certainly have to try something. And education is messed up in so many places. But what's the alternative? Not doing anything, not having it. I mean, as Michael always says, if you think education is expensive, try ignorance. So I will turn this off now.
Thank you, Bradley. Appreciate your thoughts.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Don't have any hands raised right now.
Oh, my sister is wanting to say something. She's got her hand
Great.
raised.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, just unmute Bobby. Oh, there you
Okay.
go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, very good. I just wanted to let everyone know how much I've enjoyed this past hour. It's always inspiring to me to get to listen to some of your stories about your journey. It always blesses me, and you inspire me to be a better person. And just want to say that the time that I got to share at St. Boniface was very inspiring as well. And I'm glad that you're around such a wonderful group of people when you're away from home. And I love you and wish you the best always.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. We'll talk later too.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Vince and Betsy have their hand raised, and then after that, Donna.
It's me again. Since I've already spoken, Donna, why don't you go ahead? I'll go after you.
Oh, thank you, Betsy. Thank you, Michael. This was a wonderful presentation, very thought-provoking. I appreciate what you're inferring about that travel, and this has been a part of my life too, whether it's work or play. It gives the space and time to really be an observer. I find that when I'm home, more often I'm busily doing something. Whereas if I don't have familiar around me, then I tend, I think, to be a better observer sometimes. So that I think is just such a lovely thing about travel. I appreciate that you spoke explicitly about shared moments that are common for you and the people when you're in a different culture that you're with, the people that you're with in a different culture. The cup of coffee that you noticed, the moments of sharing together like you would if you were at home, the same kind of humanity shared, whether you're 5,000 miles away or 1,000 miles away. And then the third thing I really appreciate is that you brought it back home. You then shared, after sharing your observations of humanity across cultures, you brought it right back home to remind us that we have this same kind of compassionate caring that you see across the world and that you participate in and lead on across the world. We have the same kind of beautiful humanity at our St. Boniface and with each other right here in Sarasota. I really have appreciated this morning. Thank you, Michael, and everyone.
Thank you
And
for those kind words. I agree with you. It's here.
yes. And I especially appreciated also the comments that everyone's made, and Michael's sister. What is your name again? Motorola?
Bobby.
Bobby, yes. Thank you for your sweetness, your sweet comments about your brother.
Oh, thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Donna. Betsy?
Well, I'm glad I let Donna go first because she said what I had wanted to say, but way more eloquently. So, what Donna said.
All right. Thank you. Anyone else? If not, Michael, again, thank you so much for sharing and giving us the opportunity to see through your eyes and your experience humanity that many of us would never have a chance to see. And
Well,
to see the commonality that you were talking about.
thank you for inviting me. It's been a pleasure and honor to be here. So thank you.
Michael, anything else? Not you, Michael, the other Michael.
Right.
Anything else you want to share before we go off? He's got his hand raised. Oh, and Reed's going to speak after. Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Let Reed
And
know.
Rita.
We have, it's a typical Piovani thing, which like, we can't find the buttons, we can't find anything. I first of all, I really give thanks to the spirit for approaching you, Michael, to do this, because, you know, I wasn't sure actually when I asked you why I was asking you, except that I find you to be an incredibly good person with a good heart. You and Brad both. You have just touched me in the time that we've been at Boniface, because you guys do this in such a quiet, unassuming way, and yet you really reach out to people. One of the things that was hitting me as you talked, I grew up in a city in which it was really something for people to move out of their own neighborhood. It very much was in the true form of ghetto, an enclosed area, and very small-minded, very parochial. And when I started to travel, my eyes were opened, not just with what the world had to offer me, but it helped me to see my own way. And as I was listening to you, that was what was hitting me, is your journey is more than just places. Your journey was event and growth and all that happened to you. And I just wanted to comment on that for bringing that to us and appreciating that. We're grateful. Michael?
Thank you.
And
Thank
then
you.
Grace after Michael, or Grace before, I don't care. Michael?
Yeah, I just appreciated the way you started and continue to remind us of humanity, because I think that's one of the things that's missing today. We don't see our common humanity. We see differences and we attack others rather than seeing our commonality. And that's where I see hope. And your whole presentation was filled with hope. And I think that's what we need to be sharing with one another, is that type of hope. And it was just grounded in reality. And thank you for that. And, Rita said, you and Brad have something special. You really do. And it's just real. There's no pretense. You don't make it look like something different or special. It's just there. And it's illuminated because it's so real. So thank both of you.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
you for your humanity, the two of you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
And Grace, just before you get a chance, Reed, you had your hand up and I don't see you now.
I just took it down for a second. Michael, you and Brad understand that you all have a ministry. We have to remember that the ministry of the baptized is the first order of ministry in the church. And this is what you do, both of you. And I am so grateful for you bringing your stories and your compassion to the church, to the people of God. We learn through you. And that's an incredible gift to us. And I thank you on behalf, not just of myself, but of all of us, because we learn that it is possible to reach out. And that, yes, we can, as individuals, do something that will help. It's not that these problems are all so big that we can't touch another human soul. And I am so grateful to you both for this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Reed. And Grace?
You're on mute, Grace. Grace, unmute.
Gracie, you're muted.
Grace is working off of her phone, I think, and is trying to figure out where the unmute is.
Where the unmute is, yeah.
Yeah, Grace.
There we go. How's that?
There we go.
There you
There
go.
you go. Got it.
So, Michael, I just wrote this down as I was thinking about it. I just love the things people have said about you, because I've gotten to know you primarily through evening prayer, which you are a wonderful addition to. And but I think you're a wonderful ambassador for our country. And bless you and Brad for your offering of understanding and your help and compassion to others, wherever you found them, in your work and in every country you have visited. Amen.
Thank
Amen.
you. Thank
Amen.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't see it as being an ambassador. I'm just living my life as the best that I can. But I appreciate that compliment. It's very much a compliment. Thank you.
But I think one of the things that comes out, Michael, is your the gift of hospitality that you have, in the sense of being there with others and being open to learning about others and their ways and their culture and sharing that. That is hospitality.
I have to give my parents credit for that, because they would open the home and have people come in. And my dad sang in a quartet, a Southern gospel quartet. He had a tour, he had records, all this stuff. So we were always having people in our home, and always having music and family and people coming in that I didn't know who they were, but it was always something going on. And that was my role model. So I tried to continue that.
That's wonderful. And Rita and Michael have their hand up.
Yeah, one of the things that I absolutely love about not only your presentation, Michael, but what everybody has said. And a lot of times what's not said is as important as what has been said. And that is, we've never used the word spiritual once. And I love that because everything that has been said has been spiritual. And we don't need to use the word spiritual when you're using the word compassion, hope, humanity, kindness. It's wonderful. I think that's one of the blessings of this whole presentation. You don't need to use those technical words or those, religious or theological words that we throw around. So thank you, one and all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael. And again, Michael, thank you so much for your presentation and sharing yourself and your walk with us.
Well, it was my pleasure. Thank you. Quite honored.
Blessings. And just to give you an update, on November 11th, our next time, we're going to have, and we really didn't have a formal title yet, so I kind of put one together, but a spiritual journey working with the Union of Black Episcopalians. And Dr. Chandra Williams will be our speaker. So put it on your calendar, second Saturday, 10 o'clock. And we'll look forward to seeing you all then.
Thanks.
Blessings, everyone.
See you tomorrow.
Thank you. Bye-bye.